The American-Japanese War. The American-Japanese War, often referred to as the Pacific Theater of World War II, spanned from 1941 to 1945. It was a monumental conflict that pitted the United States and its allies against the Japanese Empire in a struggle for dominance in the Pacific Ocean and East Asia. Marked by unprecedented brutality, the war featured battles fought over vast stretches of land and sea, revolutionary military strategies, and technological advancements, including the first use of atomic weapons in combat. This war reshaped the global power structure, the nature of warfare, and the fates of the nations involved. Causes of the conflict: Japan's expansionist policy. Japan, driven by its desire to dominate East Asia and secure natural resources, adopted an aggressive expansionist policy during the early 20th century. Key events: the invasion of Manchuria, 1931, and the establishment of the puppet state of Manchukuo. The full-scale invasion of China, 1937, during the Second Sino-Japanese War, leading to atrocities such as the Nanjing Massacre. These actions alarmed Western powers, especially the United States, which viewed Japan's actions as a threat to regional stability and its economic interests in Asia. Economic and diplomatic tensions: the U.S., seeking to curb Japan's aggression, imposed a series of economic sanctions, including freezing Japanese assets and cutting off critical exports such as oil and scrap metal. Japan, heavily reliant on imported resources for its military and industry, viewed these measures as acts of economic warfare. Strategic goals and miscalculations: Japan aimed to establish the Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere, a bloc of Asian nations under Japanese control. Believing the U.S. would be unwilling to engage in a prolonged war, Japan sought to neutralize American power in the Pacific with a surprise attack. Pearl Harbor Attack, December 7, 1941. Japan launched a surprise attack on the U.S. Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, destroying or damaging numerous ships and killing over 2,400 Americans. The attack, intended to cripple U.S. naval capabilities, instead galvanized American resolve, leading to a declaration of war on Japan and entry into World War II. Major events of the American-Japanese War. 1. Early Japanese victories, 1941, 1942. After Pearl Harbor, Japan rapidly expanded its empire, seizing territories such as the Philippines. Overrun after a brutal campaign, U.S. forces surrendered at Bataan in 1942. Malaya, Singapore, and Indonesia. Key Allied strongholds fell, granting Japan access to vital resources. Guam, Wake Island, and Hong Kong, demonstrating Japanese dominance in the Pacific. 2. Turning the tide. Midway and Guadalcanal, 1942, 1943, Battle of Midway, June 1942. U.S. naval forces, using intercepted Japanese communications, ambushed and sank 4 Japanese aircraft carriers. This decisive victory halted Japan's advance and shifted the balance of power in the Pacific. Guadalcanal Campaign, August 1942, February 1943. The first major Allied offensive, involving brutal jungle warfare and naval battles. Securing Guadalcanal marked the beginning of the Allied island hopping strategy. 3. Island Hopping Campaign, 1943-1945. The U.S. implemented a strategy of bypassing heavily defended Japanese positions to capture strategically important islands, including Tarawa, 1943, and Kwajalein, 1944. Demonstrating the ferocity of Japanese resistance. Saipan, 1944, enabled U.S. bombers to target mainland Japan. Philippines Campaign, 1944-1945, liberation of the Philippines, including the dramatic Battle of Leyte Gulf, one of history's largest naval battles. 4. Final push, Iwo Jima and Okinawa, 1945. Battle of Iwo Jima, February-March 1945. Fierce fighting over a small volcanic island, famous for the iconic flag-raising photo. The island provided a critical airbase for U.S. bombers. Battle of Okinawa, April-June 1945. The largest amphibious assault of the Pacific War. Over 100,000 Japanese defenders and tens of thousands of civilians died, highlighting the high cost of an invasion of Japan. 5. Atomic bombings and Japan's surrender. Hiroshima, August 6, 1945. The U.S. dropped the first atomic bomb, killing over 140,000 people by the end of the year. Nagasaki, August 9, 1945. A second bomb killed over 70,000, pushing Japan to surrender. Japan's formal surrender, September 2, 1945. Signed aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay, marking the end of World War II. Aftermath and consequences. 1. Casualties and destruction. The war caused immense suffering. Military deaths. Over 400,000 Americans and over 2.5 million Japanese. Civilian deaths. Millions across Japan and occupied territories. Cities such as Tokyo, Hiroshima, and Nagasaki were devastated by bombings. 2. The nuclear age. The atomic bombings marked the dawn of the nuclear era, fundamentally changing warfare and geopolitics. The bombings remain controversial, with debates about their necessity and ethical implications. 3. U.S. occupation of Japan under General Douglas MacArthur. The U.S. implemented reforms to transform Japan into a peaceful, democratic nation. Drafted a new constitution promoting pacifism. Disbanded the Japanese military and war industries. Introduced economic reforms that helped rebuild Japan as a modern industrial power. 4. Shifting global power dynamics. The war ended Japanese imperial ambitions and established the United States as a dominant global superpower. The U.S.-Japan alliance, forged after the war, became a cornerstone of stability in the Pacific region during the Cold War and beyond. Legacy of the American-Japanese War. The American-Japanese War left a profound and lasting impact on the world. Lessons in warfare. The conflict demonstrated the destructive potential of modern weapons and the importance of intelligence and technology. Diplomatic relations. Despite the war's brutality, Japan and the U.S. rebuilt relations, becoming close allies. Cultural impact. The war shaped the cultural memory of both nations, influencing literature, film, and public discourse. The war remains a stark reminder of the horrors of conflict and the need for peace and cooperation in a globalized world.